Okay, Jackie, Jean, and Stephanie. This is a little bit of a primer on how to sand down Pinewood Derby cars. So I'm going to show you what I have available here and how to use them. The first thing that we have here is we have different grades of sandpaper. We've got the very coarse sandpaper, which is probably the roughest, that takes out the majority of bumps and things like that, and that's a 60 grit coarse. That's probably your roughest one, and that's what you start with usually. This is a medium grit sandpaper. This is the one that you would use to kind of, once you've gotten all the major bumps out, you can use it to sand down a little bit more. And this is your fine grit sandpaper at 150 grit, which is, as you can see, very, very fine. And that's what you would use to kind of like just get it super smooth. So you've got three types of sandpaper. You're probably going to want to be starting with this one right here. And the way to help you with that is you get the sheets look a little bit like this when they come out of the paper, come out of the envelope. And so they're a nice strip made right for the kids to use. And what I have here is I have a block of wood. Now why the block of wood, you might ask, is to wrap the paper around the wood. So fold one end, bring the other end up, so that you have a piece of sandpaper kind of like this, and that way the kids don't have to get all that friction going underneath their fingers, which could actually get pretty hot in a hurry. They can use the hard edge to help try and take sand away some of it, and it'll actually give them a little bit more pressure than if they were just trying to do it with their fingers, and they won't feel that burning sensation underneath from the friction. So I would recommend using it on the block. What you'll also see here is a couple of files. Now I'll have a couple of these available, two for each group. You might ask yourself, why a file? The file actually gets a lot done in a lot shorter period of time than if you were to do it on your own. This one is a rounded one for those curves. As you can see, the top is a little curved, and so that works better for shapes kind of like this one here. You know, if you're trying to get in between there, that's good for shapes. If you wanted to kind of create a groove shape where it's shaped kind of like that, that's what that would be good for. The flat side obviously got a flat side too, which is good as well. And I'll show you what I mean by that, is that by taking normally if you've got a hard edge to a piece of wood like this, you'd be spending a lot of time sanding that on your own, which would be rather difficult. So what this does is actually cuts down the amount of time that you can do that in. So let me just demonstrate this for you very simply here. If I can get this to stand up. All right, so I'm going to try and hold this here. So what's going to happen here is you're going to take this and you're going to rub it back and forth on the wood, kind of like this. Same thing, you can use the other side edge, the flat edge one too. Now the thing you have to be careful of is if you notice when I do this, you can very easily get a nick in the wood, so you want to be careful of that. It's very easy to take out too if you needed to by just doing that. And you can see how the edge of the wood, which was normally just a hard edge to it, now has a rounded edge to it. And so that's a very easy way to take care of that in a simple sort of way. So the filing ones are good for that. Now if you'll notice this one here, if I take this one and I'll rub with this one, you'll notice what I did right there. See how that creates kind of a beveled sort of groove. So it's good for some of those odd-shaped cars that you need the bevel for. These files are good for, the flat ones are good for cars like this. You see how the grain of the wood is all here. You want to make sure that that grain of the wood, I mean, it's still going to be visible in some way, but it's not so ridged. You can actually feel the ridges right here. So taking the flat side of this and going back and forth on it in an even way will eventually take a lot of this ridging out, and then you can sand it down with some sandpaper, and that will help to do this. The goal of what we want to do tonight is you want to try and make sure that every kid is getting their car as smooth as possible That means trying to take out these edges here, making sure everything's smoothed over, and taking out some of this black here, so you can see where the power saw left some burn marks there. You want to try and sand those out. Now the kids will say, oh, I'm done after like doing it for 2 seconds. You want to make sure this car is as smooth as possible before you let them go any further. So all you're going to be working on tonight is really just sanding. And actually you can send some of the sandpaper home with the kids if they want to, if they want to work on it at home. There's quite enough sandpaper here for both. So I hope that helps you guys. By the way too, if this is helpful as well, I almost forgot, this is a little clamp. Clamp is very easy to use. All you do is press on this end to open it. Then you put the car on the edge of the table, like so, and then you kind of pump it. So use this handle to pump it, use that thumb lock to release it, and then you can do it here, and then that way they can just do this if they needed to. They shouldn't necessarily need to, but that's available to you as well. I'll leave a couple clamps in each classroom. But that should be it. If you have any questions, by all means, let me know.